I think, and this is important also in the conversation of those in South Africa who say, you know, I hate these foreigners who don't have papers.
Yeah.
Many don't have papers, and it's very rarely because you don't want to have a paper. It's because the bureaucracy around paper, the waiting lines, and if you want to jump the line, what you need to pay to actually get a paper within a reasonable amount of time is so high that you can't measure up to that. So it's also a very flawed argument that I don't have a problem with people coming from other places, but they don't have papers. Yeah, but then the system is supposed to deliver those papers. People are not sitting, let me not have papers. That would be really nice. That never happens.
We're not having this conversation. And because of the content that I create, I get a lot of African foreigners. I'm calling them foreigners because they're not South African. African foreigners who come up to me. And we have very frank conversations. And I appreciate that they trust me. And they tell me I don't have papers. I'm here illegally. And they even tell me what they do to make money. A lot of them are working, trading, business. Some of them will tell me that, look, I get into crime. For some reason, they trust me. But then they've spoken about, and it's come out very little, that there's a huge problem at Home Affairs.
Absolutely.
There's a huge backlog of people that should be here, who qualify, who have scarce skills.
True.
I've had people who have been waiting for years to have their permits renewed. They initially got papers.
That's right.
Their papers expired. I had a lady, I'm not going to mention where, but the lady was like, one of the guys at Home Affairs said they can sort me out for 30,000 rand.
Yeah, exactly.
30,000 rand is a lot of money.
Yeah. For something that you are obliged to get by law.
Yes.
Yeah.
So part of the issue we have, because there's a lot of issues, is our Home Affairs is broken. And I've spoken to Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi maybe 2 years ago, and I think he recently joined Home Affairs coming from the Department of Health. And he was speaking about a lot of the people that work, they are not trained. Yeah. He's like, police get trained, nurses get trained. We don't have like a college for people that work there. A lot of the systems are legacy to a point where you'll go on a system and you'll find out your parents are not married. Yeah. But it's because they were still capturing it manually back in 80 whatever, and it's not on the system and it has not been captured.
That's right.
The systems crash, whether it's done intentionally or
you could argue that
systems. And then there's a huge backlog. And I know the year before last year, they tried to recruit 10,000. That's what they were saying. They wanted 10,000 young people to come to Home Affairs, to transcribe from manual to, I don't know what happened to that project, but as the heartbeat of what's meant to be a nation, a sovereign nation, colonial systems, the fact that we can't sort that out is very scary. And to what you're saying, there are people who are here illegally in the same way that there are people who work in companies with fake papers, South Africans. And it's like, it's not because I don't want to study or get papers. And it's not like I'm in this company to steal. But I need you guys to understand the nuances and that there are certain systematic issues that the people in charge of the systems are not sorting out, so that then you guys can bash us. We're here illegally, you want to hurt you, and you're like, bash us then, it's fine. Right. But you guys also haven't solved this thing, and that now becomes your problem with your government, and it's heartbreaking, and it's a conversation that I think if someone ever did a deep dive documentary,
yes, I agree,
to probably lead to a lot of arrests. Hopefully it wouldn't lead to any potential homicides, but it would be a mess. There's a great channel called The Agenda Network, which profiles stories of prisoners or ex-prisoners, I'm not sure.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
And one of my favorite stories is this gentleman who used to work at Home Affairs, I believe, telling a story of how they were making money corruptly at Home Affairs because they would manufacture IDs and then they linked with people. No, I think he worked at SASSA where they pay out grants. Okay. And then they ended up working with people that make IDs and they created all these fictitious IDs and then they'd pay. Like, he was just, I'd like to think he was a small part of a deeper issue that we have.
Right.
Your thoughts on xenophobia in South Africa? Just xenophobia in South Africa.
I would like to frame it as Afrophobia because there's a systemic element in how we relate to blackness worldwide, historically, and what has been done to us. And since the black body has been a target for so many levels of violence, we have also become complicit in how we look at that, in what we deserve, the violence that we deserve, and the violence that we also take part in, either not seeing or trying not to pretend that we don't see, so we kind of allow it, or actually also take part in unleashing on fellow Black people. I frame it within that understanding.
Afrophobia.
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 So phobia is a deep psychological anxiety and fear for what is different.
Okay.
If that's what we were struggling with, white people would be in the sea right now.
Yeah.
And clearly we're not struggling with that.
Yeah.
White people walk around very comfortably in most places in South Africa. We target those who look like us, or are a shade darker than us, or have some form of accentuating the Africanness that irritates. I feel that's very much not just the South African. I'm not trying to frame that this only happens in South Africa, but I think it happens in a particular way because of how people are squeezed into corners of oppression in this country still, in terms of where they live, in terms of promises that are being made to them, in terms of that everybody's living with this dream. Soon I will be moving into X, Y, and Z. Soon I'll get a better paid. Soon I will be, and that soon never comes.
Yeah.
And a government that keeps saying this, vote for us and we're going to give you this, just know that you should go the opposite direction of that, because it's not going to happen. So I think there's a very strong systemic reason for these types of violence and aversions that many South Africans have. This thing of saying that these people are coming for you.
Yeah.
And when you, as an African with the history of us being invaded multiple times, hear that somebody's coming for us, you know what? The only thing we must do then is to defend ourselves. And if these people also don't have the power that our real oppressors really have, because we're not really going for them, which we should, we then find easier way. It's easier to put somebody out who's already have a weak infrastructure, who may not have the papers, who may not have some of the things we now claim. It's interesting for me that South Africans who have lived under unjust laws since forever, like democracy or not, now say, but you must have a paper. Is that how you look at this state? Like if they can just issue papers, then everything is fine. You don't have a paper for the plot that you own. You could be taken to court because there's something wrong with your paperwork. That's, you also face these discriminatory practices. But now all of a sudden when it's someone else, now I agree with South Africa, I stand for South African law. We have the best constitution in the world. Nonsense.